there's always been an unspoken rule in gacha game development. If the main character is free, they're either secretly meta or unusable at best. That got me thinking, where does Wuthering Waves' main character actually land on that spectrum? As I was pondering this very serious question, it hit me. I decided to take on the challenge of completing the entire run only using Rover and his cannon weapons. So I made some rules, and here are the rules. Rule number 1. I may only use Rover throughout this run. If the game forces me to use any other character, it doesn't invalidate the run, unless Rover is available in the team, in which case only Rover may be used at that point. Rule number 2. I can only use Rover's cannon weapon, the only one he's used or shown using in cutscenes. Rule number 3. I can only change Rover's attributes only after he reaches S6. Other than those rules, everything else is fair game. Now, let's see if Rover can beat Wuthering Waves solo. We finally awaken after falling from the sky, which is generically not how a normal day begins. But not long after, we meet Yang Yang, who tells us we are on the outskirts of Jinzhou and gently suggests that going to the city might be a better idea than staying where we crashed. On the way, we passed a large dragon statue that looks impressive, so of course, it has mind-controlling abilities. Fortunately, being the legendary Rover comes with its natural resistance to random brainwash. Continuing on to the city, Chisa explains that there hasn't been a Tacet field in a very long time. Then what about that Tacet field down there?
When did it show up?
Beats me. After seeing the Tacet field, we all three decided to check it out. But first, we will receive our main weapon for the run. I equipped it immediately and we headed down to the Tacet field to see what funny business could have caused it. There we saw Baija, but the Rover's spidey senses started to kick in. Oh, well, good evening. The first time I fought this boss, I stood on business and immediately started throwing hands. But this time, I thought I wanted to see if there were any cool interactions. And I kid you not, this went on for a full minute and a half. Like, jeez. At this point, I even got tired of waiting. I checked the timer and accepted that nothing special was gonna happen and proceeded to beat his ass. After beating the Crownless, we got the call from the magistrate. She invited us to meet her at the city hall. So we did just that and headed to the city to meet up with her. Completing Act 1. When we entered the city hall, we were told to sit and wait for a specific person. We passed the vibe check, and someone informs us that the magistrate isn't currently at the city hall. Instead, she left behind 3 mini puzzles for us to decipher. Apparently, a normal note wouldn't suffice, so we now have to solve it to find out her location. We meet up with the gang and start figuring out how to solve the 3 puzzles. Yang Yan suggests that the candy could probably be something that the children would recognize, while the remaining pieces are better off being tested at the laboratory that Baizha works at. Excuse me, do you know what this candy is?
No.
Well, that beats it. Time to go to the laboratory. As we enter the laboratory, we are greeted by this distinguished gentleman, MistahFeet, who explains that analyzing the puzzle will take some time, because apparently, in the future, you still can't just scan puzzles and instantly know what it is. Later, Baizha informs us that we need to run a health check. Fortunately, as the legendary Rover, we're in peak condition. With nothing concerning to report, she instead asks us to run a short training session to test our strength, purely for scientific reasons of course. As I complete the training exercise, the Sonorosphere starts acting a little weird. As we leave the Sonorosphere, Baizha explains that the whole thing wasn't actually part of her checkup and must have been a malfunction. Not long after, we meet up with MistahFeet, who reveals that one of the puzzles is actually a compass with a note hidden inside. Unfortunately, he's missing a key piece that's somewhere in his lab, so that becomes our next task. When we return, Baizha also tells us that the candy clues lead to a village on the outskirts of Jinzhou, the last place it was distributed. With an actual lead in hand, we finally know where to go next. But first, we got access to the event tab, which gave us the single greatest ability in this run, the ability to fly. As we complete the trial to get the ability to fly, I was thinking, what if we do a little bit of exploring? And I did just that. For almost 3 hours. I only realized after I messed up a very simple puzzle. Bro, am I dumb? I finished the puzzle and then headed to the village Baizha mentioned to continue the story. There, we started to look for clues, only to find something else. Is that really what we came here for? Oh shit!
Guess you won't need my self-introduction. Oh, I spent so much time on it.
After Scar's flashy introduction, he hops down from the building and explains that the village was cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and apparently, once the villagers got a taste of the cocoa powder, they became completely addicted and started losing it. As a result, the village now looks like this. Later on, we run into another member of Scar's group, who's there to pick him up because he's taking too long. She reminds him that the plan isn't ready yet, and that he's needed elsewhere. We leave the village and finally solve the compass puzzle, which reveals the hidden notes and its contents. The message points us towards the Grand Library, located back in the City Hall. As we step through the hidden door, leading into the Grand Library, I'm immediately hit with flashbacks to how rough this section used to be. Bro, this puzzle is straight ass. As I started working on the puzzle, I couldn't help but wonder why the magistrate even needed the other two puzzles if the compass one already pointed straight to her location. It felt a little unnecessary. Thinking about it, the sugar candy one made no sense. It was based on a village, and then the mangosteen one had no story relevance. But as I completed the puzzle, something didn't feel right, and as I finished, this happened.
Thank you for leading the way, Rover.
It turns out Scar has been following us the entire time, using us to get into the Grand Library. We tell him he needs to leave the area, but Scar has a very different idea of what leaving looks like. So he tells us to run the ones. So we proceeded to run the ones. As we did, I checked my health and noticed it was a bit too low. Later on, I saw that Scar is a full 10 levels higher, which in this game is a huge difference. Unsurprisingly, that leads to our first death. Bro, come on, that was so close. We hit rematch and lock in. After whittling him down to the very last health point, Scar pulls out this move. Oh, come on, man, that's just unfair. Why do you have a second phase? Not long after, he just straight up manhandles me and gives us our second death of a run. Bro, are we serious? Did I not parry that move? After that loss, we hit rematch and locked in for a second time, beating Scar's second phase and breaking the domain of the ones. Once we broke out of the domain, I saw that not only did the magistrate but Samhwa were betting to see how many tries it would take for us to beat Scar. Before we leave the Grand Library, the magistrate tells us about a group known as the Black Shores, who supposedly keep records of everything. If anybody knows why we fell from the sky, it's probably them. She then hands us a picture of the group emblem, a flower, in which we have the bright idea to ask the gang for some help finding out if anybody has a flower similar to this. Yang Yang then tells us that she knows a grandma that knows a cousin that knows a brother who took in a plant resonator that might know where to find this flower. Are we serious right now? We meet up with the plant resonator and she tells us that she has never seen this flower. Well, that sucks. So I decided to go up the trail and see if we could see anybody with the flower on the way. But knowing a plant type resonator didn't know about it made me think this was another puzzle the magistrate left behind for me. But as I continued on the trail, I met the person I was looking for. Excuse me, since you have the flower I'm looking for, do you know where the black shirts? Oh shit. Turns out she's been following us as well, and that her job was to inform us that her colleagues were in the city and needed me to help them. When we arrived, we met Otto, who told us that we had a special mission to complete. We then headed to the location only to find out that there was only a mecha for some reason. As the three of us looked towards the mecha, we all think the same thing, that it looks like a bunch of garbage.
What did you say, you idealess pieces of...
As the mecha squared up and the brawl began, I quickly realized that Ev was 20 levels higher than Rover, and we already know how that went with Scar. And this time, I was absolutely going to regret being underleveled. To make things worse, the game forced a mandatory teammate to switch in, which technically meant I've lost the run. As I sat there and processed the defeat, it finally hit me. At the very start of the run, I've been given 5 revival units, and this changed the run. After barely beating the mecha with 100 HP left,
Might work.
Alto then informs us that the outside world is experiencing a phenomenon called retroactive rain, which is according to him very bad news for the city of Jinzhou. As we make it back to Jinzhou, we run into Tao Chi, who tells us that the general of the Midnight Rangers is requesting our presence in the front line. Unfortunately, the current state of their defense won't let us pass through, so we help them sort that out first. Bro, there's only 2 5-stars here. Ling Yang doesn't count as one.
Know your place, trash.
After successfully defending the city, Rover and Yang Yang head to the front lines to meet with the general. When we arrive, we find him locked in combat with the Thundering Mephis, so we decided to help him gang up on it, by which I mean, I solo it with Rover. Later, as we move closer to the frontline base, a giant statue suddenly rises from the sea. Naturally, the 3 of us decide to check it out, not knowing it is the final boss fight. As we enter, the final boss emerges from the heart of the statue and immediately incapacitates General Jian. We do not take that lightly, and without hesitation, we decided the only reasonable response is to try to take down the final boss solo. Once we obtained this new attribute, we then started scrapping with the final boss, and eventually beat her. Man, I didn't sign up to beat the final boss this early. What in the Elder Ring is this? Oh, that's a bomb. You better do something, Han. We're praying on this. What the? Yes, I know, I have been playing for 3 hours, please. This is a bad time to be reminding me.
Food. I want food.
Bro, are you seeing this? Did that echo just talk? Once we got situated after the final boss, we then asked this little guy what his name would like to be. Without any efforts, he couldn't remember, so we just gave him the name Abby. We then tell Abby that we've been having some strange and extremely vivid dreams about the dragon from earlier, heading towards a mountain shaped suspiciously like itself, calling it Mount Firmament. As we're talking, a few old-timers overhear us and explain that Mount Firmament lies east of Whining X Mire, and that the only way to get there is by boat. So we headed to the docks to wait. While we're standing there, a mysterious woman suddenly appears and politely asks if her joining us on the boat would be of any trouble. We tell her we don't mind at all, and ask why she's heading to the mountain. She explained that the magistrate has gone silent and hasn't answered her terminal, which has her worried that something might have been wrong. She then turns the question back to us and asks us why we are heading there. We had a vivid dream of a dragon heading to the mountain. That's it. Yes. As the boat arrives, we board it to head to Mount Firmament. When we arrive, we find the mountain frozen in a state where time itself seems to have stopped. Huanglong suggests that this might be because the Dragon Sentinel has been weakened by Scar's group and is now hiding away in its secret chamber to recover. She suggests that we should head to the city to see if the residents know where the magistrate is or the Sentinel's secret chamber. We meet with the residents who tell us that the magistrate is heading towards a secret chamber underground and that Scar's group followed her there. With that in mind, we make our way down and we soon caught up to the magistrate, telling her that we're here to save the mountain and its people. She thanked us, but our reunion is cut short when Scar's group shows up right behind us. With no time to waste, Huanglong tells us to keep the magistrate safe while she creates an opening for us to reach the secret chambers. As we arrive, we immediately feel the Sentinel's aura. Yo, I thought this guy only know how to do time manipulation. What is this? Okay, that was cool, man. We speak with the Sentinel, which explains that it can no longer sustain its long existence. Weakened by time, it has retreated into its chambers to preserve itself for as long as possible. The magistrate asks, what can we do to help it? The Sentinel explains that Jinxie would need to undergo a process called Second Resonance Awakening, granting her the power necessary to sustain it and inherit the power over time. The problem is that the process is extremely dangerous. The alternative would be for the Sentinel to use the last remaining power to freeze Jinzhou in time, just like the mountain until someone strong enough could help. That option doesn't sit well with Jinxie. Jinzhou is already in a dangerous position and its waiting indefinitely isn't exactly a plan. So Jinxie asks how to unlock her Second Resonance Awakening. The Sentinel tells us that it requires our help and that Jinxie must fight through the awakening herself. If we fail to support her during that critical moment, she wouldn't survive the process. We activate the Sonora Sphere for Jinxie and the Sentinel to efficiently set up the one-on-one. But there's one more problem. I can't use Rover in this fight. Since Jinxie is a mandatory character, the rules force me to use her for this boss battle. As the boss battle comes to a close, Jinxie begins her Second Resonance Awakening. The Sentinel then tells us that this is the perfect moment to pass on its resonance ability onto her, giving her the power needed to save the mountain and its people. Bet, let her ride.
This one has heard your decision.
as you instructed. Jinji, one shall honor one's promise and restore Jinjo's future to you and its people.
After the fight, the Sentinel then tells us that the starting point of our real journey starts at the Black Shores, and that we should head there as fast as possible to figure out why we are roving Solaris 3 again. After that, we end the final chapter of Huanglong and beat it in 12 hours. Damn. Here's my build. As you can see, I was level 60 and I never took off the Tri-Sword that's also level 60. I ended up going with the Lingering Tunes Sonata set because it was the only one I could use, because Celestial Light is activated via intro skill, and since we're in a solo playthrough, we can't use intro skills. We could use Rejuvenating Glow, but since in the beginning of the run I didn't have Sequence 4, I couldn't actually heal from the Resonance Liberation, so it couldn't help. So since Lingering Tunes was just a permanent attack buff, and with the 4-cost Echo being the mecha that also gave attack buff, it was perfect for a single player run. So to answer the question at the beginning of this video, you could kinda solo the entirety of Huanglong with Rover. Granted, Wuthering Waves is more of a story game, so you do have to play mandatory characters, but throughout the whole time, Rover was a really strong character, so it wasn't that difficult to be struggling in like fights, boss fights, and domains. The only problem with the game is that if you're under leveled, it is really hard. Like, you are trying to fend for your life. It is a skill issue, but you just get better at it. But yeah, so the answer is you kinda can, right? You can solo everything except story quest. So that is the answer for the video. My next video is gonna be the Black Shores. It's gonna be shorter because the Black Shores is like a 3-hour to like 2.5 playthrough, since the next big chapter is Renacida. So it is a shorter video. I am gonna edit it a little faster, but it really depends when this video comes up. And if you liked the video, please like and subscribe, and if you want to see other videos, watch these.